Sabes Que, did you know? I'm your host, Jesse Lemulis, and my co-host, world-renowned percussionist, Pablo Batista, here at USALA Media. Pablo, today's interview is with three of the six remaining members of Orquesta La Paz. We're going to
Wow.
learn about that history, but there is a lot of other history amongst these three artists about Latin music in Philadelphia in our Puerto Rican Latino community. So let's welcome Mr. Mickey Rivera, Victor Aday, and Mr. Jose Perez to
Nice.
Sabes Que.
All right.
Right. I love it. I love it. This is so exciting to be able to sit down and talk to you guys. It's like I gotta start. I gotta start with you, Mickey, because you have been here since I can remember, and like what a tremendous history you have. So, Mickey, I want you to start from the beginning, so the folks know where you were born, you raised, and how you moved into the music.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, 1950, and I started learning how to play bongo at the age of 6 with my father and learned clave. I did my debut at the age of 7 in Las Villas in upstate New York with a quartet called Los Hermanos Mercado, 4 brothers. That was my very first show, gig. Then we moved to Philly in 58, and I started playing here in 1961 with Carlito Cortez and Trio Venus. Fast forward, time went by, middle 60s, smaller groups evolved. Then I wound up going to Puerto Rico in 1968 for summer. When I came back, I started playing with Rafi Hernandez and Como Los Galanes in September of that same year. After that, I made my own band, Orquesta La Progresa, which I was able to record a 45. As time went by, then that band broke up. I started playing with my brother, Johnny Rivera. We had El Sonido Típico Sextet. Then after that, that was in the 70s. Later down the line, 1975, I started with the second Orquesta La Paz. I was called by Victor Aday to sit in and do a show for that. And I've been playing here ever since then. I've been playing here for 5 decades now, 53 years.
Wow. Wow.
53 years.
Thank you.
You don't look a day over 20.
Thank you. You just don't look over, they're over 12. But anyhow, yes.
Yo, Mickey,
Yes.
yo, Mickey, you know I don't see too good though, right?
Anyhow, and then I started doing a lot of trio work, recordings. I backed up a lot of famous trios back in the day. Los Condes, Las Tres Guitarras, Las Tres Hace. I helped out Lili Su Gran Trio one time. I also helped out years ago in the 60s in the Teatro Puerto Rico. The singer that died, he was Mexican. And he had a lot of great boleros. Anyway, I did that show there, and that's why I did the show with Los Condes and also Joe Mostoro. And I got to record the 45 with him later in the same month. So,
Nice.
I've worked with a lot of big class acts from back in the days, but I was very young. My whole life has been music. I didn't have time in my youth to play with toys and things of that nature. My toys were instruments and music.
Right. Well, what's your main instrument, Mickey?
My main instrument was bongo, bro. I started on bongo. I love all the other ones I play too, but that's my main one.
Right.
But I got into the other instruments on my own, and I would ask questions.
Because you come from a family. I mean, your whole family. I mean, I played with your brother Monguito, and I know you had an older brother as well. Your whole family's musical, right?
I taught my brother how to play. My mother sang. My father played guitar and vibes and bass. I play vibes now. Entonces, my sister was a modern dancer. My baby brother was Johnny, who played guitar, tres, and bass. He showed me how to play bass and rhythm guitar. off of an electric guitar. And then my brother Nick, who you're talking about, I showed him.
Yeah.
He had an operation. After he came out of his operation, he asked me to teach him how to play. So when I made my first band, La Progresa, he was my conguero in my band. When I recorded my 45, he also did coro too, because he was in the vocals. So it was a very exciting time during them years for myself.
That's his brother Nick.
Yes, we call him.
Nice.
You gave him that nickname at the beginning, Monguito, Mongo, because how to play, you know. But and then after that, it's been back and forth, and I wound up. I went to Chicago. I recorded an 8-track with a guy named Gerito Sanchez, Los Mejores, who came to Philly after a while. And then I wound up in California with Johnny Polanco and Conjunto Amistad. I played with him for a couple of years. And we backed up a lot of singers, Tito Nieve, most of the great singers, you know, Camilo Azuquita, guys like that. Because they would pop up at a club called Floriditas.
La Florida.
It's an invitation to the one in Cuba. So
in LA.
Yeah, go ahead. You was going to say something, Pablo?
Yeah, it's in LA, La Floridita. Armando runs it. Yeah, a friend. Yeah.
Well, there's one in Cuba too, in Havana.
I went to that one when I went to Cuba with Victor.
Yeah. Well, you should have looked at one of them tables. I carved my name in one of those tables at the Floridita. Of course, there's only a million names there.
That's what I'm saying. I would have been there from that time to now trying to find your name. With all the names
you got that right. Mickey,
that's so great.
You've been musical director for a lot of bands here in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Can you name a few? Because
I did for Georgie, su conjunto Si Se Logra, a band that was called Super Combo. That was, as a matter of fact, that was Troy Lang, that used to play trumpet with Como Los Galanes. He made that band. Later on, I sat in with PEREZ Rivera, who was the lead trumpet of Los Galanes, and he made Orquesta Puerto Rico. So a lot of big bands evolved from different small groups. Carlito Cortez made his combo. I forgot the name of that. What was it? Carlito's Combo Chatu. El Combo Chatu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Combo Chatu. He made Chatu. So when I left Carlos, by the way, when I was going to leave Carlos' band to go to another band, I taught his brother Herman how to play timbales. So he took my place with Carlos when I left to go with the other band, which was Los Reyes del Swing. 5-piece band, a tres, second guitar, Don Serrano, Karim Montres, William Aponte, who just died this year. He used to play conga and tambora, and he taught me how to play tambora. And I played timbales, and we had a singer called Jimmy Rivera. This guy was astronomical. Another great singer that was very astronomical here, and very well recognized, was Cheito Aponte, Cho Aponte. And this man had a voice like a lark. And you know, you could see this guy, you thought he was a white person. He had un boricua de tofino. But the voice out of this world. And everybody looked for that man to sing. No matter whatever little groups got together, they always call him on stage for whatever reason. But anyway, these are the people that were around at that time that I was working with. And I directed maybe 2 or 3 other groups after that, like my brother's sextet. Then I did another group that Georgie had, but he wasn't the owner of the group. It was another guy. I directed that. I forgot the name of that group. But that was about most of what I did, and I'm still doing.
Nice.
Excuse me, one more thing. I also want to thank Pablo Batista for giving me a chance to teach at AMLA when that was happening, and he had to go on tour, do whatever he had to do, and he gave me a break to take over his class while he had to do what he had to do. And I thank also Jesse for both of you guys accepting what we do.
Right. Yeah, no, because there's not, and the reason, and Jesse, let me say this, the reason I'm very particular, but the reason why I chose Mickey was because, number one, he had all these years of experience, but he was a multi-instrumentalist. He played bongo, he played conga, he played timbales, he knew how to play maraca, guiro, tambora, and he knew the clave, and I knew that in my absence they were in good hands, and they were. So I thank you for taking care of me as well. You know,
Thank
my
you.
man.
Well, I like that explanation, Pablo, because now I don't feel bad that you didn't choose me.
Yeah. I was trying to let you go so you can run the school.
Yeah, okay, thanks, man. Well, we're going to move on now. Probably be back to you later, Mickey, but we're going to move into Mr. Victor Aday, who is the leader of La Paz, and we want to hear a little bit about La Paz, but first we want to hear about your background, where you started and went to school and all that kind of stuff.
Victor, all right.
Again, thank you both for having us. I was born and raised here in Philadelphia to a Puerto Rican mother from Juncos, Clara Vázquez Nieves, and a Cuban father from Santa Clara, Villa Clava, Central Cuba, Frank Aday, Evelio Francisco Frank Aday Derias. As a child, I remember being introduced to all the Latin, all the Spanish-speaking music because of my parents, clearly. But when I discovered WIBG Radio 99, that put me in rock, soul, country, blues, etc. And that was and my life changed completely when I discovered WIBG Radio 99 with disc jockeys such as Bill Wright Sr., Joe Niagara, and my favorite, High Lit. So I was into a cappella harmony groups before I came into the Latin scene in 1974. That urge was always there because of my Cuban Puerto Rican roots, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. And actually, I had met Mickey in 1968 when I saw him, and 69 when I saw him playing tins and singing in English with Como los Galanes, and that's what I wanted to do, was sing in both or become a musician in both. And I approached him and asked him, and then from there we've been friends. So basically that's it. So I was more into the a cappella harmony groups until I finally did accomplish being in a Latin band, which was Orquesta La Paz, the second version. The original La Paz came from Caguas, Puerto Rico, and it was founded by Julio Cesar Marrero and Johnny La Santa. And they arrived in Philadelphia in 1973. They finished their little mini tour. They finished all the contracts. Half the band went back because they wanted to go back to Puerto Rico. But Julio Cesar Marrero stayed, and with Freddie Ruiz, they put together the second La Paz version, but the first original Philadelphia version, which was in June of 1974. And the rest is history. Angelo Rivera, rest his soul, Rafi Rivera, and I were the last three to earn the right to be a part of La Paz. We passed the audition.
Yeah, Cesar was wow, what a great loss. What an amazing musician Cesar was.
He's the man. He is and always will be the founder leader of Orquesta La Paz. I'm just holding court for him. That's
well, I'm sure he's proud of you for that, and as we are.
Thank you very much. So and one more thing, if I may, please. I learned clave with this man right here next to me, Mika Rivera. He always he said to me, if you do want to get into a Latin scene, a Latin band, you have to learn clave, 2-3-3-2, and rumba. And he was the man who taught me. And I actually learned everything on the job. And I remember being on stage, and I would be off tune or off clave, and I would hear, hey! And I would look the other way to make sure that nobody thought it was me, but it was me. So I owe a lot to him for that. So there you have it.
Good for you, Mickey. Good for you, Mickey.
So that was thrilling, and I couldn't believe I was actually in the band. I just couldn't believe it. Here I am.
So
that's so cool.
Let me ask you, cool. You recently have released or getting ready to release another album, or tell me a little bit about the progression of La Paz.
We have two songs that are not finished. I want to mention also Ivan Perez. Without him, we're nothing. Without Mickey and him, we're nothing. So the three of us bring you La Paz. And so we have semi-finished recordings of Salao, an original tune from Julio Cesar Marrero. And we're doing a cover salsa version of Just the Two of Us by Bill Withers. and that's what we're going to finish in the very, very near future, in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Victor.
And yes.
That was Grover Washington Jr.
There you go.
Bill Withers sang it. Grover Washington song.
Okay. but Bill Withers was the one who sang it.
He
sang
the
vocals, right?
It's too soon.
Yeah.
So we have those too soon that we're going to finish, and then move on from there. We're excited to get back on the scene.
Let me ask you about that song right now. What tempo are you guys recording it in?
Salsa. It's a salsa tempo.
It's a salsa tempo.
Both of them are salsa. You know, we play song and son montuno.
Okay.
And, you know, so that's what we take off from there.
As we talk about La Paz, and you mentioned Felix, talk a little bit about his role and why you felt he was so important with the band.
Did you say Felix or Ivan?
Ivan, excuse me.
Ivan.
Felix is his brother.
Yeah,
right. Ivan.
Incredibly talented men, incredible talents that we've been around for eons. Ivan Perez is the engineer. He's a Latin Grammy nominated engineer, as you know, as I sent you that paperwork. We call him Mr. Strings, and we also call him the man who can, el hombre que puede, because he was on that list of nominations as an engineer. And we go back to 1972, he and I, the three of us, really.
Wow, well, that's unbelievable.
He's very important and part of this family, absolutely.
And I want to go back to mention Cesar again, and that's the fact that I don't know if a lot of people know, but he helped me quite a bit in bringing programs into the schools for our young kids for a long time with that program, The Roots of Puerto Rican Music, you know. And he had that flavor on the keyboards that you were in Puerto Rico when he played it, you know what I'm saying? That kind of a thing.
Unbelievable, yes. And he brought flavor, he brought originality. No one here was doing anything like what he brought. And as far as I believe that there's four, he's the first of the four piano players that came to Philadelphia and made a difference. He being the first. So it would be Cesar Marrero, Isidro Infante, Lenny Prieto from Puerto Rico, and from New York, Jimmy Lopez. I think for me, those four guys really brought change to our Latin musical scene here in Philadelphia, and of course, Camden.
On that note,
and also,
go ahead, Pablo.
Also, just what I, you know, because I worked with Cesar for a long time as well. He was amazing. He played left-hand bass with his montunos, and so a lot of times you would look around and you think you're listening to two guys, and it's just Cesar, and then he would sing on top of that, so it sounded like three people. He was just amazing. So you know, and a great composer.
Incredible talent, and the songs were original. Again, he's the one that brought originality here. He really did. And then everybody, and we're still, with this new version that we hope to be coming out with, we have a whole set of original music from him with new arrangements.
Wow.
All right, folks, then we're going to take a break and we're going to come back to this wonderful conversation because we got a lot more to talk about.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
On Sabes Que.
We're here at Sabes Que with Victor Aday, Mickey Rivera, and Jose Perez, and we're talking about the wonderful music of Philly, and we were talking to Victor about La Paz. Now, Victor, you mentioned that you were finishing another album for La Paz. So my thing is, when this happens, you're going to make sure that we know we're the first ones to know so we can help promote that album because you guys are a history here in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, thank you. It's 2 songs that we're working on. We're going to put out 2 songs, not a complete album first. And absolutely. And again, grateful for this opportunity to be able to speak with you and have people learn about the history of Philadelphia's Latin scene, which includes La Paz and many others. We've had great musicians here all along. As Jesse, as you and I have spoken, it's a little off target, but Philly's known for its rock and soul. But yet we are not acclimated. We are still not acclimated with the rest of the city as far as our Latino musicians in Philadelphia, Camden, and Delaware Valley area. Period. So we have such as Pablo and Crystal Torres on trumpet, and just two of the many that musicians that have come from this area and have worked and been to the mountaintop, but no one here, but the rest of Philadelphia has no knowledge of it all whatsoever. So those are things that I feel that we need to continue to work on, and finally for that day to come that the rest of Philadelphia has learned that we are here and that we want them to be a part of us too.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And with that, let's hear what La Paz sounds like, okay?
Como hermanos, todos a coro cantamos esta canción que me llena de emoción. Quiero que escuchen esta inspiración para que me den su opinión. Es que los quiero ver bailar mi charango original y diferente que le gusta a mi gente.
And that was the exciting sounds of La Paz that we were listening to.
Thank you.
Pablo, you almost started playing the congas on that, didn't you?
Hey, so let me ask you, Jesse, did you notice that, man, they're going from charanga, but they went into a beautiful vibe with the whistles and the whole groove. I love the way you guys brought the two worlds together, man. Congratulations. That was beautiful.
That was my idea.
Mickey's idea. And by the way, that is the original version with Caesar and me doing the unisons and then we did harmony with Tony Perez. And that CD came out in the 80s, the 80s band, which was called From Philadelphia with Love. But we redid it with when we did Deja Vu that came out in 2010. We did that song also with the harmonies. So yeah, and Caesar and I wrote that. He wrote most of it, and I contributed the middle part.
Nice.
Fantastic.
And Mickey was in charge of the vocals there, so there you go.
Okay, all right.
His
listen,
idea for that.
Yeah, there's an individual here we haven't talked to yet. We need to talk to him because he's got a lot of info and he's just sitting there all calm and everything. Mr. Jose Perez, man, another member of La Paz. Well, you know, Jose, you got to go back to the beginning too, where you were born. Blah 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 blah. We need to know all of that.
I was born in Puerto Rico in Cuamo. I came here when I was 6 months old. I've been here 65 and a half years. And I grew up on Germantown Avenue, which was La Avenida, which music was next to Puerto Rico Theater, and the jukebox was always humming. And I listened to a lot of, R&B as a kid, but I also listened to a lot of, Latin music because of the jukebox and the Teatro Puerto Rico. So I had that influence, but I was more into like the Motown sound and all that. But when I was 13, I got introduced to Joe Bataan, New Swing and Sextet, Apollo Sound, and that started changing me over. And because I found out that, they were doing Latin, but with soul. That's where the Latin soul came in. Then that put its grip on me.
Mhm.
And then I became instead of getting into the music, what happened was I became militant. So while all my buddies were learning how to play percussion, I was into the militant thing with the Young Lords and all that. So when I got out of there, how was I going to catch up to these guys? They've been playing congas, bongo, timbales. So the easiest thing for me to jump in there was the guido. So I grabbed the guido and I started practicing the guido, and I kept doing it wrong. And then I had Pupi Lagareta come to my house, slap me around a few times, and tell me, no, you don't do it that way. You're playing the wrong way. This is the way you do it. And he showed me the strokes. I practiced, and I'm not lying, 4 to 5 hours a day for about a month. And then I called him up. I said, I got it. He came over to my house and I played for him. He said, now you can play with me. I started playing with Pupi Lagareta. Then I got a chance to play with I got a chance to play with La Paz because of Angelo. Angelo Rivera was they were missing a singer. They came to the neighborhood where I was. He used to hang out with me, so they came to the corner. They asked me, "We're looking for the singer." So I jumped out and I said, "Yo, what you need this guy for?" Because I didn't know who they were. We don't know if they were looking to hurt him, right? So I said, "What you want?" So they explained to me, "We're so and so, and we're the band from Puerto Rico. We're looking for a singer." They told us about this guy that can sing. So I told him, "Yeah, he's yeah, I'll tell him." He was standing right behind me. I'll tell him. So when they left, I told him, "Look, we got to go up to the room and listen." So we went and researched for about 4 or 5 days. Cheo Feliciano, Marvin Santiago, Tito Rodriguez, Andy Montañez, you name it. Then we got into the Cuban artists, and so when we went to the audition, Victor was there auditioning, Ralphie was auditioning, the trombone player, and then he was there. And they asked him, Cesar Lax played the piano and said, "What do you know?" He said, "Well, play something, I'll sing." And he started, and he started singing, and the rest is history. He's wound up being the leader, and he brought me in, and I started playing with the group, and it was my bad time in my life where I wasn't sober then. I've been sober now 32 years, but I did it, and I learned from I want to say I got a little bit of history. Pablo showed me how to play. I went to his house. He showed me how to play bongo. He showed me some of the basics, and I played with a group for 3 or 4 years playing bongo, which I just played. I wasn't a killer at it. And then Victor gave me a shot to play again with La Paz. Okay, Jesse, who blessed me being in AMLA. So everybody here, we have a connection in one way or another, and
Yep.
and what happened was I bought a Guido from LP, and it was a sloppy job. I mean, sloppy, and I didn't like it. So I took a file and I started working on the grooves. And then people's Guidos were cracked. They would give them to me to fix. So that's how I started getting into it. And again, as you see, I got nothing but Guidos all around me. I have over 15 of them. They all have history. The oldest Guido I have is from 1976, which was the one I started with La Paz that Peachy gave me, Greg Jarman.
Oh yeah.
And so the Guido has been my instrument. I play a little bit of conga, timbales, and stuff like that just to keep myself going. But the Guido is my main instrument. And and la clave now, I practice here singing. I always playing claves, and but I remember that this guy right here with the shades on said corrected me one time about playing clave, and it's so important. And then I found out that la clave is the heart. It's the heart, and I have a painting that I drew because I also paint, and I wrote, and I did the clave, and I put el corazón de nuestra música, es la clave, and then Mickey's so profound in that too, and Pablo, and you know, and then you have Victor that sings, and I told Victor, I said, man, you have it already, man. You can sing and play clave, man, which is I have a hard time doing, but I'm getting it. But so the clave is the corazón, regardless.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
you can do this, pero hay gente que están cantando. You have guys that are singing, and they are singing out of clave, and it's a whole different ball game. So when you practice a song, you gotta practice la clave when you do it, and then when you go perform, it's there, So but
Well,
that's
a lot of these songs are written around the clave, so you have to know which clave you're playing and when it switches, and so that's the heartbeat, like you
Yeah.
said.
the first thing I asked Mickey. I said, Mickey, is it 3 or 3-2?
Yeah, right. Listen, you talked about the Weedo, but there was one thing that I would like for you to do is pick up one of those Weedos and show it, because there's going to be people listening to this show and they're going to say, "Well, I heard Weedo, but what do
What is
they
it?
look like?
What's a Weedo? What is a Weedo?
What's a Weedo? Is it a friend of ours or something?"
This is a Guido, and this belongs to El Conde, Peter Conde Rodriguez. Okay, this here is a family to the squash in that family, and it grows in a vine, and it's well, I used to play like this, and then Poopy's used to tap me on my head, say pegao, pegao, and up and down, up and down. So that's where the rhythm cha cha cha, it comes from here. And so I study a lot of the Cuban Gustavo Tomayo. They play with Cachao. He was one of my biggest influence. You have El Conde. You have even Johnny Rodriguez. Believe it, plays a mean Guido. Chihuahua. And Manny Cordero, that passed away. He's also was an awesome Guido player. And so it's a lot of them. But Poopy was the one that taught me, man, and I'm so grateful. Every time I see him, I have to remind him that he showed me how to play, and
that's cool.
It's a simple thing, but if you got to do it right, you got to do it right. One time I was playing, and Edwin Rosa from the Sonora Ponceña said, "You're playing all right, but you're not keeping the stick close to the. Tiene que dejarlo pegado," and I didn't understand. Then he showed me. He showed me to leave the stick pegado to the thing, and then I understand there's a certain groove to it, because you can play like this. That's not pegado. Pegado is like this. It's a different style, and now they have a different thing where you just go up and down, and it's to play cumbia. What we notice now is that the kids, you can't tell them to play charanga. You can't they don't know it's a different beat to play charanga. Just charanga's doing the cowbell thing. Kiki-kun, right? So that's why in the charangas you don't have a bongo. A cowbell. Now they use it in different charangas, but Kiki Kun is what the Guido was doing. Charanga, and it's more downbeat on that one. And so you tell these young kids, the young fellas that are out there, and they don't know how to play a cumbia, they don't know how to play when están tocando un seis, what do you do? They don't know,
Yeah,
there's different stuff you gotta that you have to learn, and
different styles,
and they just know this.
right.
Yeah.
Well, when you were talking, you mentioned Pupi Legareta.
Yeah.
a couple of times. We need to let the people know who Pupi Legarreta is. He's one of the Fania All-Stars, and he's one of the guys that brought charanga music to New York City when he came from Cuba. And he lives in Philly. He's one of our Philly legends here, believe it or not. So listen, let's I'm going to go back to Victor, and we're going to put up a couple of pictures so the folks can see what La Paz looked like back in the day, and they can also look at those members, those intricate members of La Paz.
Well, in this particular picture, there's Jose Luis with the güiro. I'm next to him with claves. To my left is Angelo Rivera, who I feel is El Sonero Mayor from Philly. And next to him is Mickey, believe it or not. But in this particular picture, you can't see Mickey. On the other one, similar to that, you could. And this was at Westchester State University. And it was actually the 70s band last gig in Philadelphia. After that, things went a little south. The band was breaking up, and we went to Puerto Rico to honor the contracts there. And that was 1978. And in 79, we had left to go to Puerto Rico. And then, of course, the final demise of this version of Orquesta La Paz. But this was a very good one. And again, this picture was taken at Westchester State University.
You guys are pretty slick too on there, y'all. You're looking good. And guess what?
There's a lot of hair.
There's a lot of hair. There's a lot of hair.
All the hair in the world. And it's gone now. So my grandchildren have it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we got one more picture. In this picture, you know, I'd like for you guys to identify all of the players in La Paz with this next picture.
All right. It's a black and white picture that was taken in 1976 at the Randolph Social Club. Left to right, on piano, the leader founder, Julio Cesar Marrero. On bongo is Tony Bongo Viera. In the middle is Papo Claudio. On congas, on timbales, Mickey Rivera. Behind them on trombone is Rafi Rivera and Freddy Ruiz, who was the co-leader of that band at that time. On trumpet, Junior Irizarry, not seen as the other trumpet, which is Max Moskovitz. On bass, you have Ivan Perez, and up front, Angelo Rivera, and myself on güiro.
Fantastic. Wow. You guys were looking slick there, too.
Wow, that's so cool.
It was amazing. That was an amazing band, and I was incredibly
76?
Grateful. That was 1976. Maybe you weren't around. Wow. Were you, Pablo?
76. No, I wasn't born yet, but we'll talk about that later.
I wish I could say that.
So, you know, so there you
go. No, I was around.
And we were always wearing the uniform, no matter where we performed. Be in the playground, on top of the roof, whatever. We always made sure we had a uniform to present right.
That's correct. We were always dressed well, yes.
That's cool. That's so cool.
And that separates the boys from the men too, believe it or not.
Yes, it does.
Appearance is very important in whatever you do.
By the way, if I may, the following year in February of 1977, on a particular very cold Saturday, right there at the Randolph Social Club, we were the third act on the bill with the star of the show was Raúl Marrero, iconic singer-songwriter, entertainer from Puerto Rico. The second act was Panamá y su ritmo caliente, and then we were the third act. And when Raúl heard Angelo Rivera singing and soñando or improvising, he said, I'm taking these folks with me to New York City, and that's exactly what he did. And he co-produced our album with the Alarcón family. That came out in January of 1978.
It was because of Angelo that La Paz got to record. Because Raúl Marrero fell in love with the style of singing of Angelo, and on top of that, his soneros. And he was a sonero himself, so he said, I gotta get this done. So finally, and Para Comerte a Beso was our hit.
He wrote Para Comerte a Beso for Angelo, and that was our hit on the New York charts that went to number 14. And then we debuted at the Corso on April 7th and 8th of 1978. Bolito Vega, New York's top DJ, presented us there that night, which also included Papo Vasquez and all those folks. They came up to see us because they were next door from El Corso on East 86th Street, a place called Barney Google's, where he was playing with Eddie Palmieri that same night. So
Listen, guys.
And our debut was with Luis Perico Ortiz, Orquesta Broadway, y Casanova y Somontuno. That was an incredible experience for us.
Listen,
Wow.
guys, Pablo, we only got about 5 more minutes, and maybe we'll take those 5 minutes for each one of you to say something that you think is important in respect to the music, or you know, how you see it, whatever it is that you want to say.
Or what advice would you give? What advice would you give the next generation? Because we got to pass our music on. So I think that's a good question.
Sure. The advice for me would be to learn. Try to go to school and learn. If you don't go to school and learn percussion or whatever you like to learn, try to get with somebody that does do it, but does it correctly. Don't go learn the wrong way. Learn the right way.
Right.
The way it should be done. And pass it on, because if we don't do this now, the generation that's coming up, wild as they are, they're going to let all of this go, and there'll be nobody here to carry it on any further. We have to do that now and get them ready.
Right.
But the other thing is they're interested in learning. That's the other part, because I have a saying now. Learn what I teach so you could teach what you've learned. Aprende lo que enseño, para que tú enseñes lo que aprendiste. So that's going to be very thorough for a lot of musicians.
Also, my being born and raised here, when I was growing up, we didn't have a place, and I had mentioned that before, but you had schools, Anglo schools, that were great. They taught very well and everything. It wasn't until AMLA came to be, thank you, Jesse, that now we have classes for Latino boys and Latina girls to come and learn our culture, our music from all those different Spanish-speaking countries, but of course, to learn son, which is the root of what the world calls salsa. Very important as far as we're concerned.
Jose?
Yes, sir.
Jose?
And
Okay. I'm so caught up in this what's happening. No, I think that learn from the elders, the people that've been around. Learn and stop saying that you're so and so, you've done this. Learn from the people that have paid the price to get, that put the foundation here of for the music. Learn of the people. Like myself, I'm not nobody, but I like to listen and learn from people that I know. When I first saw Mickey with the Backgammon Sextet, that was a Latin jazz group back in the 70s, early 70s, man. He blew my mind. I said, wow, this guy can, whoa. I mean, and just get into the, the elders, man. Don't put them aside, because that's where the meat is at. You know what I mean?
right.
That's where you're going to learn from, man. I mean, like, you got to learn from the elders, man. Listen to the old music. I got records from the 20s, from Cuba, a lot of it from Cuba. And I've always listened to music and learned from that stuff. But, man, learn from your elders.
Well, you know what? That's a wonderful note to end this show with, and it's been my pleasure. And I know, Pablo, it's been your pleasure to spend a little time talking to these guys,
I feel real honored to be around these guys. These guys are part of Philadelphia history. God bless you all, and continue keeping the music alive. All you guys, Jose Luis, Victor, Mickey, continue on your path, and we thank you. And this has been an awesome interview. Thank you on behalf of Sabes Que.
And thank you for having us. God bless.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Sabes Que, did you know?